Everyone is staring at the ashes of the battle. Everyone is replaying Criston Cole's final breath. Everyone is obsessing over the cliffhanger. They're missing the point. Episode 6 wasn't built around war. It was built around something far more insidious. The total collapse of certainty. Look at them. Rhaenyra, Daemon, Aemond, Alicent, Daeron. Every single power player who entered this hour believing they understood the rules of engagement left realizing they are completely blind. There's a quiet, rotting thread pulled tight throughout this entire episode. Once you see it, you realize the writers weren't trying to deliver cheap shock value. They were issuing a warning. From this moment on, the Dance of the Dragons is no longer governed by crowns, titles, or grand strategies. It is ruled entirely by fear. And that is precisely why Episode 6 just changed the entire trajectory of the series. Let's break down what almost everyone missed. Criston Cole didn't lose the battle. He lost himself. The opening minutes didn't just subvert expectations, they shattered them. Casual viewers expected Criston Cole to go down in a blaze of glory. A legendary last stand. The honorable knight's death. Instead, he died in the dirt, unsung, swallowed whole by the butcher's block. That wasn't a mistake. That was George R.R. Martin's thesis in full effect. History does not romanticize pride. It erases it. For 3 seasons, Criston built a fortress out of his own self-righteousness. Yet every bloody step he took to protect his code only mutilated it further. By the time he walked into this episode, his rage had evaporated. What was left? Pay attention to his eyes compared to Season 1. Anger demands vengeance. Anger fights. Exhaustion just wants a noise to stop. Episode 6 didn't give him redemption, and it certainly didn't give him glory. It gave him silence. Cold, dark, unforgiving silence. The brutal reality of the Butcher's Ball. The fight itself wasn't filmed to look cinematic. It was filmed to look filthy, messy, savage, pathetic. Call it anticlimactic if you want, but that is the exact bleakness fire and blood demands. High fantasy loves to elevate death into music. Westeros strips it down to meat and mud. Sometimes the realm's most feared commanders don't get remembered. They just rot. Rhaenyra's slow descent, while the men die in the mud. The real horror is taking root on the throne. Look at Emma Darcy's performance here. The warmth is gone. It isn't blind rage animating Rhaenyra anymore. It's cold, calculated paranoia. Watching her dismiss the desperate cries of the starving small folk. Watching her lock down her court with growing authoritarian suspicion. This is how monsters are born in Westeros. Not through a single traumatic night, but through the slow, invisible erosion of humanity. One necessary evil, one public execution, one quiet sacrifice for the greater good, until the woman you rooted for is completely gone. Notice how the show doesn't use heavy dialogue to prove she's changing. They let the silence do the work. Shorter answers, stiffer posture, eyes that look right through her advisors. Rhaenyra isn't breaking under the pressure. She's calcifying. The danger of Daeron Targaryen. While all eyes remain glued to Aemond's psychopathology and Daemon's haunting, the real threat is quietly gathering dust in the south. Episode 6 pushes Darren's rift with Ormond Hightower into the light. He doesn't want to be a piece on their political chessboard. He doesn't want to be their warhammer. And that should terrify you. History teaches us a brutal lesson about power. The most destructive monsters aren't the sadists. They're the reluctant ones. The ones who hesitate. The ones who hate the bloodshed. Because when a good man finally snaps, when his conscience breaks under the weight of an inescapable war, he doesn't just kill. He burns the world down to make it end. The invisible monarch. Strip away the banners, and you'll see the true villain of Season 3. It's not a dragon. It's not a king. It's fear. Look at the architecture of every scene in this episode. Trust is dead. Every directive is born from paranoia rather than evidence. Friends have become liabilities. Allies have become targets. Fear is now the absolute ruler of Westeros. It dictates every whispered conversation in the dark corridors of the Red Keep. making every single interaction feel like a knife pressed against a throat. The book Divergence that rewrites the map. For the book purists watching, one quiet change speaks volumes. Gawain Hightower. In Fire and Blood, Gawain's story ends much earlier. Here, the show drags him deep into Criston Cole's campaign, weaving him directly into the web of the war. That isn't filler. That is a signal flare. The showrunners aren't just adapting text anymore. They're deliberately shifting the board to build a pressure cooker. If Gawain's timeline is altered, no one's fate is secure. Corlys Velaryon and the Death of Reason. The ambush on the Sea Snake isn't about the shock of blood. It's about the collapse of intellect. Corlys isn't just a fleet commander. He is the anchor of sanity, holding Team Black strategy together. Leaving his fate bleeding in the dark does something worse than losing a fleet. It leaves Rhaenyra without a brain in her war room. The anatomy of the collapse. Here is the central truth that most casual recaps will ignore. Every major character in Episode 6 lost control. Not of their armies, not of their dragons, of themselves. Criston welcomed his execution. Rhaenyra traded empathy for iron. Daeron fractured under his own duty. Alicent scrambled to bargain from a position of absolute ruin. This war isn't just burning castles anymore. It's consuming souls. What comes next? With 2 episodes remaining, Episode 6 wasn't a climax. It was the door slamming shut behind them. As we head into the finale, forget what you think you know about the history books. Expect betrayals born purely from blind paranoia. Dragon warfare, where the collateral damage destroys entire legacies. Characters making dark, irreversible leaps because fear has closed every exit. Episode 6 didn't try to blind you with Dragonfire. It did something far more sinister. It proved that the deadliest weapon in Westeros isn't Vagor. It isn't Caraxes. It's the terror living inside the minds of the people riding them. And now that fear is wearing the crown, the darkest bloodbath of the Dance of the Dragons is finally about to begin. What dark detail hit you hardest during Criston's final scene? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe if you prefer your Westeros history served cold.